There we are. So, as I was saying, this is what many of us think, that menopause sucks. It's what the media tells us. It tells us that basically women over 50 don't exist. There's a very, very negative connotation about menopause and aging in general. So, let me first tell you who I am. I am the author of the upcoming book, Hot Chicks, Hot Sex. This has been my life's work. I've been spending over 3 years putting everything into this, everything that I've learned about menopause, everything that I've experienced myself, and then also to dispel some of the myths and negativities that I mentioned about menopause and aging, and also to help women age gracefully, as I say, because really, we're going to spend a third of our lives in menopause. Don't we want to live it well? I think so. And unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion. There is a lot of myths about menopause. So I want to try and correct some of those. I was born above Nettles Chemist in Tooting, where both my dad and my mum worked as dispensing assistants. So one could say that pharmacy was in my blood. Let's look at some of the taboos that exist about menopause. I remember being on a radio show once, and I said, listen, there's this article here about vaginal dryness, about women suffering and how they suffer in silence. I think we should talk about it. And the radio show host at the time, and this was maybe 10 years ago, said, could we call it something else? Could you not mention the V word? And he was really quite squeamish about us talking about vaginal dryness. So I think some of you know that expression, we've come a long way, babe, but we have not come a long way as far as menopause is concerned. As I said, there's this fear, negativity, doom and gloom. You know, we're referred to as old crones. There's also the fact that many women feel shameful, or, you know, that something's wrong with them, and it's a secrecy about it and they don't want to talk about it, especially when we're talking about things like vaginal dryness, when we're talking about things like lack of libido that happens to women. There really isn't a comfortable place for them to talk about it. And we're not having the talk about menopause. And some women, you know, have said to me, I feel sexless. I feel as though I don't exist in my body anymore. So maybe this is what you're thinking and how you feel. So, you know, I'm a pharmacist. I've worked with women's health for over 20 years. And of course, I've been through menopause. It had its ups and downs. But let me tell you about an experience that I had. And with all my knowledge, I had had some occasional bleeding, went to my physician and said to her, you know, I want to go on hormones for hormone replacement therapy. These are some of the things I've tried as far as vitamins and supplements. I tried a couple of herbs, but I said I'm having some irregular bleeding, which is really quite common with women in menopause. And so she said to me, okay, I don't know a lot about it, but let me send you to a women's wellness center. So I went to the women's wellness center, filled out some forms, and I ended up in the gynecologist's office. And I think there was a little bit of chit chat there. I'm not really sure. She asked me about the bleeding. I told her I'd taken some herbs. And then she basically said to me, I'd like to do a biopsy. The look on my face probably said it all. I said to her, like, now? And she said, yes. And I said, well, that isn't really why I came here. I came here to learn about menopause, to see the services that you offer, and what are my options for hormone replacement therapy. I wasn't prepared to have a biopsy done. You know, I knew what it was. There wasn't much explanation about what was going to happen. She said, you may feel some pain afterwards. You can take some ibuprofen. I had not gone to that meeting with anyone. I wasn't prepared to have any type of procedure done. And I wasn't comfortable about it. There really was no advice offered. And I said, thanks, but no thanks. And I left. And that was my experience. And I'm a medical professional. I think I'm educated about menopause and women's health. And I now have over 20 years that I've been working in women's health and with menopause. And if this is what I experienced, I can't imagine what most women are experiencing. So if you'd like to tell me, you know, do you think the medical system is helping women with menopause? Have you found them to want to listen to you? So let's look at menopause. Is this you? Are you tired? Do you wake up like dragging your feet? Do you hit that snooze button and say, really, can I just have 10 minutes more? And then you fall asleep for another half hour. You're not jumping out of bed, you know, waiting to take on the day full of energy. You often have to have that first cup of coffee ready for you as soon as you hit the kitchen. And you feel that you're always rushed. There's a woman that's written a book called The Rushing Woman Syndrome. And it made me think, is that women? That's all of us. We're always rushing everywhere. We don't have time for anything. We're drained. We're exhausted. We take care of everyone's problems, but we don't take care of ourselves. We're out of shape. We lack the energy to even go and be fit and healthy and eat the right foods because we're always on the run. And then we don't have the time to shop for the right foods that we know we should be eating. And then when we get into bed, we're so exhausted when we think we should just be able to hit the pillow and fall asleep. What happens? That ever-ending to-do list at the end of the day is there, and it just keeps on going around and around in your head. And you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm so tired, but I can't sleep. So does this sound like you? And I heard this at a lecture at a functional medicine physician, FLC, feeling like crap. And I think most women that come into my office to see me or that I consult with online really are feeling like crap. They don't know what's the matter with them. They know they have no energy. They know that they can't sleep. They know that they're tired. Their libido has got up and left if there ever was any. And even if they felt like having sex, it's like, I'm too tired. They say they're not depressed. They know there's something wrong with them, but they say, I just don't feel right. I feel out of balance. Everyone around them has an attitude problem. You know, they can fly off the handle at the smallest thing that goes wrong. They're always losing their temper. You know, their kids, their significant other have noticed that they're irritable, they're moody. And then there's this feeling that I found with women that they say, nobody's listening to me. Does that feel like you? That you'd really like to sit down and talk to someone. You know that something's happening. You know there's this thing called menopause. And instead, what do we say? How are you doing? I'm fine. Which basically means, you know, I'm not fine. I'm insecure. I'm neurotic. I'm exhausted. And, you know, find something for me. And this was a patient that came to see me, and I thought she explained it so well. She said, I look normal on the outside. She said, but inside there's this feeling. I'm anxious. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I have no desire for sex. And she said to me, look at me. Don't I look fine? And she'd gone to a doctor and told her doctor that. And what did her doctor come up with? Her doctor said, you'll feel better on an antidepressant. Well, my patient thought, I don't think I need an antidepressant. She says, I think I need help balancing my hormones, and she came to see me. And this is what she said to me within 1 month of working with me. She said, I have more energy. I'm sleeping better for the first time. She hadn't even realized she had a rash, and that had started clearing. Vaginal dryness, which had been pain for her when she tried to initiate sex, had now improved. And in fact, with a smile on her face, she said she'd initiated sex for the first time in a while. So what I say is small changes, but big shifts in health. And was it an antidepressant that did that? No, it wasn't. So if you'd like to put in the chat box, How many of you struggle with symptoms? What are your top 3? I'll tell you what the top 3 probably are from my perspective, both as somebody that's gone through menopause and from my patients that come and see me or consult with me in my programs. Lack of energy. And that probably goes hand in hand with not sleeping. And are we not sleeping because we have night sweats? Are we not sleeping because we're stressed? But whatever, we're stressed and we're exhausted and we're tired. And then there is the hot flashes and the night sweats. There's the physical symptoms that are going on. There's the weight gain. There's that menopause, you know, the weight gain around the middle that you go, what happened? I'm eating the same. I am, you know, exercising, but I seem to have gained weight around my middle. So that's the lack of sleep, the hot flashes and night sweats, and then weight gain. And I suppose really it should be at least the top 5, because decrease in libido and sex drive is top of women's list, along with vaginal dryness. And really it's a combination of symptoms. We have physical symptoms, we have psychological symptoms. Many women do have moodiness. They do have mild depression. And all of those need to be addressed. So what is menopause? Menopause affects everybody. We're all going to go through it as women. And it does affect our partners and the men in your life. And we're going to spend, as I said, a third of our life in our menopause. You're in it for life is what I tell women. But also what I like to tell them is it's a transition. It's a journey. It's definitely not a disease. But with menopause comes diseases like diabetes, like osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease. And those are the things that as women we need to be concerned about, and we need to have a plan in effect. So yes, our hormones go down in menopause, but did you know in perimenopause, which is the 10 years before menopause, your hormones actually go up and down. So they can be high one day, they can be low the next. You can have a period 1 month and then you can go 3 months without a period. So there's changes going on that many women, because it happens in their late 30s, their early 40s, they don't always clue in and they don't realize that that is the start of their hormones fluctuating. And so the main 2 key hormones that we talk about are estrogen and progesterone. And progesterone, really, all you need to know is it's the calming hormone. And it's one of the first hormones that go down as we go into menopause, as we stop ovulating, as we stop having regular periods. And then estrogen, which is the hormone that, say, many women know about, which definitely goes low in menopause, but in perimenopause, as I said, it can be high, it can be low. But it's the executive hormone. It helps with our moods. It helps with depression. It helps with that brain fog and what we're doing. So we need those hormones. And then although it's not talked about as much, there is a third hormone, and that is testosterone. And testosterone as women, it's not just for sex, okay? And although we think of it as the male hormone, we have it, we just have less of it. And we do need it for libido, we need it for our sex drive. So those are the 3 hormones mainly that I'm dealing with, although there are others. So this, I thought this was funny. This is a guy, I should have a woman lying there on the couch, and he's in the doctor's office. And he's showing all the typical symptoms of low thyroid. So that's low energy, hair falling out, fatigue, low libido, weight gain, lots of other things, cold hands and feet. And it's what so many of my women friends say to me, and the patients that come to see me. I know it's not normal, but they're told all your labs are normal. And then, this doctor's sitting in his chair and it says, it sounds to me you're just a little bit depressed. And that's what my patient said to me. She was offered an antidepressant and she said, it's not depression. I know I have some mood issues, but I know it's my hormones. And so that's what I'm saying. We're missing the boat and we're really not educating women about hormones 101. So again, some of you may have seen this. This is the 7 dwarfs of menopause. I think this is really funny, but again, it stresses You know, this is just a few of the symptoms: itchy, bitchy, sweaty, sleepy, bloaty, forgetful, all dried up. And I'm sure that you could add many more. And if you'd like to put in some of the symptoms you're experiencing in the chat box, then go ahead. So I'm just going to cover a couple of those symptoms on today's webinar, and then as we progress, I will do other things. So sleep. Number one, this is when I used to work in the pharmacy. I used to have women in the aisle coming and saying, can I get some of that, you know, NyQuil or Sleepies? And I goes, why? Well, I'm not sleeping at night. And then as I started to talk to them, I said, have you noticed some changes in your period? Noticed that they were perimenopausal age? And they hadn't clued in that their changes in sleep were due to the fact that their hormones were changing. And long-term use of some of those sleep aids over the counter are not a good idea. They leave you with a foggy feeling in the morning. They definitely have side effects of dry mouth and that. And they were never meant to be used for long-term use. So there are definitely other options that we can use herbally, and there's definitely non-drug methods that we can use. But why is sleep so important? Why can we not go without it? Why is, driving on the road when you're tired or with lack of sleep the same as driving after you've had alcohol? The body needs to get enough sleep. During the sleep is when we produce growth hormone. It's when we repair. It's when we restore. So if you think you're doing yourself, trying to get in all those things at night, and you're trying to get in last minute things, and you're staying up late, that you're doing yourself any good, you're not. You're actually, sleep deprivation has been shown to lead to accelerated aging. So you're aging more quickly, both inside the body and also outside the body on the skin. And then also we know that when you don't sleep, you gain weight. And not only do you gain weight, but it's harder to lose weight. And the hormones that are associated with appetite, called ghrelin and leptin, are all out of whack when we don't get enough sleep. So if there's anything that you learn today, it's you need to get at least 8 hours of good, refreshing sleep. And there seems to be some evidence if you go to bed before midnight, although I can admit that I'm often burning the candle at both ends and sometimes don't get there before midnight, that gives you better sleep. It gives you better REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep that gives you the repair and the maintenance. And it gives you that deep sleep. And when you're in deep sleep, which cycles through the night, then again, you'll feel more restored when you wake up in the morning. So let's look at some solutions for sleep, some simple ones. As I said, do you have electronics in the bedroom? Do you have the TV in the bedroom? I have many people that say to me, well, I just leave the TV on and it makes me fall asleep. The only thing is that the screen and the lights and sometimes what you're watching on the TV is not good for your brain. And so it doesn't allow you, again, to get into a sleep routine. And so that's another thing that I recommend to all my patients is make sure you have a sleep hygiene routine. And they go, a routine? And he goes, would you have a routine in the morning? You probably have a routine when you get up, that you have breakfast, you brush your teeth, you have a glass of water. And I'm sure we have routines at night where we brush our teeth, we wash our face, we put on our night creams. But do we actually prepare our body and our mind for sleep? You can do some gentle stretching routines at night. Shavasana or corpse pose, where you just lie flat. Or, on the bed, find yourself a quiet place in your room and just relax progressively your muscles starting at your feet. How about some deep breathing? How about a bath at night with Epsom salts and lavender? I really love that. Not only is it relaxing, and lavender energetically helps us sleep, and you can also put some drops of lavender on your pillow at night. Also, the Epsom salts helps us detox, and it has magnesium in. And magnesium is one of my go-tos and probably one of my first recommendations, because most of us as women are so stressed out. We're not getting magnesium in our food. And magnesium, specifically magnesium glycinate, really helps. And I just read some guidelines for magnesium. We're all deficient in it. So I often will start at, 300 milligrams at bedtime. The only side effect of magnesium is some women will get loose stools. So if that happens, cut back. But we need 5 times our body weight in pounds of magnesium. So say, for instance, you weigh 100 pounds, then you need 500 milligrams of magnesium. If you weigh 150 pounds, then you're going to need 750 milligrams of magnesium. And you can take that as mixed magnesium salts. You can take the glycinate, you can take the citrate. I find those are 2 of the best absorbed. You can do magnesium oxide, but it's not absorbed very well, and it has more of the tendency to be a laxative. So definitely magnesium, the magnesium powder in a warm drink at night is really, really helpful to relax your muscles. And then that hygiene, how about writing down, things that you're grateful for, 3 things that happened that day. Also get all the things that are going around like on that hamster wheel in your head, get rid of that. Write that down too. And then I've mentioned magnesium, holy basil tea. To me, that's Buddha in a cup. It's so relaxing. It calms the mind and it helps you, puts you in a peaceful place. And you can also use that during the day if you're having anxious or tense moments. And then there are definitely some herbal supplements that I love. I love things like L-theanine. I love things like GABA. I love things like holy basil can be taken as a supplement too. There are 5-HTP is another one. So those are a combination of supplements, but before you take any supplements for sleep, please check if you're taking any medications, because there could be some interactions. So those are some quick, easy solutions for sleep. Turning off electronics an hour before you go to bed. That electromagnetic frequency definitely help disturb sleep. So let's move along here. This was a little cartoon that I found. Who has time to work, run a house, raise the children, always look like a fashion plate, and be scintillating and sexy? And basically, it's women who do too much. And I'm sure that's all of you that have joined today. I mean, put your hands up again if you think that you're stressed out and you really don't take care of yourself and you just do too much, that rushing women syndrome. I always say it's women who do too much. So I'm asking you, stress, how are you coping? And so many patients and women, when I talk to them, they're coping by, not getting enough sleep. So that typical, as I said, burning the candles at both ends, trying to be a superwoman, trying to do everything. But we're also using stimulants. So we're using caffeine. And caffeine, one is maybe okay for you, but if you're not sleeping, or if you're stressed or you're anxious, then caffeine probably is not a good idea for you. And some people metabolize caffeine very, very slowly. And so if that's the case, any caffeine can still be in your system, but specifically I wouldn't advise drinking caffeine afternoon. And then alcohol. Everyone likes a glass of wine or a drink here and there. But when you realize that you're coming home and that's what you're doing, you're sitting down on the couch, you're exhausted, and you're having 1 glass of wine, or maybe you're having more than 1 glass of wine, is that alcohol? Are you trying to use it as a relaxant? Are you trying to use it to cope with stress? And again, long-term alcohol definitely has some contraindications. There is evidence that it increases your risk of breast cancer. It affects the liver. It definitely isn't going to help with weight gain. So really, let's look at that. What are we using to cope with stress? And then the last one, I must admit, chocolate's my favorite, especially good, organic, dark chocolate. with at least 70% cacao. But again, are we using that as a stress coping mechanism? Are we grabbing, sweet, sugary snacks, including chocolate, because we're bored, because we're stressed out, because we're tired, because we get home and there's nothing to eat and we don't feel like making something to eat? And again, chocolate has good flavonoids in it, good antioxidants in. So again, it's good in moderation, but are we abusing that along with some of the other stimulants and things I've mentioned here? So if caffeine, alcohol, chocolate are not a good idea, what is a solution? What can you do to revitalize? So really, self-care is the name of the game. And so what I'd like you to do is just either you can share it or you can write it down for yourself. What is one thing that you could start today that would involve you taking better care of yourself? And a really good one I find is just say no. N-O. It's 2 letters, but it's a very big, powerful word. And as women, we just don't do that enough. We don't say no. And so I'd really love for you today, as I said, to think of one thing that you can do this week that would be for you, just for you. And then meditate. When I first heard about meditation, you'd think you have to go and sit up on the top of a mountain for 24 hours. And it's not that. It's just simple things. It's simple things like taking a walk in nature. They've shown that city dwellers versus people that actually get out in nature have less stress, are less anxious, and less depressed. So spending 5 minutes, and you can meditate, you can deep breathe. You don't even have to do anything fancy. I know when I first started yoga, I'd keep having these thoughts coming into my head. And of course, I was critical of that. And I remember the yoga instructor saying, just let them come, say thank you, and then let them go. And so more and more I can do that because I realized that time on my mat was time for me. It wasn't time for all those automatic negative thoughts that keep coming into our head. How about walking? We've mentioned walking in nature, which is really, really good for you. Just breathing. I sometimes see women come into my office and they just take a great big gasp. And it's like they've let all the cares of the world off their shoulders. I think sometimes we forget to breathe. We're holding our breath. We get short of breath. We breathe from our upper chest. So how about, just putting your hands on your lower belly and just breathing so your breath goes out. And breathe in and your belly expands, and then breathe out. And notice, where are you breathing from? Are you breathing from your belly? Are you breathing upwards in your shoulders? Are your shoulders going up and down? Then adaptogenic herbs. And adaptogenic herbs are exactly what they say. They are herbs that allow us to adapt to stress. And some of us have a lot of stress and we're on the exhaustion phase of stress, and some of us on the wired phase of stress. So there are different herbs that will help with that. Ginseng is one that so many people hear about. But again, you've got to be careful with the different types of ginseng, because in some people it can increase blood pressure, but other ginsengs are more adaptogenic and more calming. 2 of my favorite are rhodiola and ashwagandha. Rhodiola has been used to help with energy, help with endurance. It was actually used by athletes and in recovery. And then ashwagandha is another one. But there are a number of different herbs that we can use to help boost the adrenal glands, which are the glands that help us deal with stress. There are fight or flight glands. They help produce cortisol and adrenaline. They help us survive, but unfortunately, most of us are in survival mode all the time, and we never go back to that calming mode, which we should be in 80% of the time. And unfortunately, we're running in our life. We're in stress 80% of the time. And then, finding a coach to help you with things that you're dealing with in menopause. finding a coach to help you deal with the stress and the anxieties in your life. So those are just some of the simple solutions. And again, I work on a deeper level with patients than in my programs, but I just thought I'd give you those. So then, as we wrap up here today, thanks for joining me. What do I do and how can I help? Over the years, I've worked one-on-one with thousands of patients. And now I'm working globally because I'm working online too, because I could only see a limited number of people in an office. But this is a time for us to get to know each other. It's a time for you to work one-on-one with somebody. It's a time for me to tailor your plan that may or may not include the right supplements. It's a time for you to get on track, to end the confusion, to get educated about what's happening. So I host both private and closed group sessions to help and find support. We hold regular Are We on Track sessions. So if you're interested in that, please contact me. I can show you how to sleep like a baby, awake refreshed. I can show you how to go from that bitchy mood to beautiful, both inside and out. We talked about stress. How would you like to go from exhausted to exhilarated, to actually getting up in the morning feeling refreshed? And then again, how about going from hot and flashy to smoldering hot again and sassy? So I like to think of that I'm your best friend. I help women not only survive, but thrive through menopause and beyond, because it's about quality of life. It's about how we function. It's really about waking up to self-care and what you need to do for you. So if any of this resonates with you, here's my contact details. You can contact me on my website. You can text me and phone me. And for any of you that are interested, I offer a free 30-minute consultation by phone where we can look at what's happening. We can see what solutions are available to you, and we can see which of my programs might be applicable. So thank you. Thank you for listening and being on this webinar today. I will, hopefully, if the recording's gone well, share it both on Facebook and in an email with you. And just to give you a heads up that my book will be printed and available by December. And I will invite you all to both purchase that book and be present at my book launch. So that's the presentation for today. If anyone would like to answer any questions, please put them in the chat box and I can answer them for you now. So anybody got some questions for me? Just put them in the chat box, or also mute everybody.